Lindsay Wagner.
Excuse me, Mike. Oh. Yes, I'm a little overwhelmed. Guess Charles and I have something in common. A couple of crybabies. That too. Oh, I really want to thank all of you for coming. And I have to put my glasses on for those of you who are taking pictures because I can't see you. Look at you all. I just want to say that receiving this star, I was talking to my son about it earlier and saying it felt odd to me. And I thought maybe it was because I hadn't done so much in quite a while. I know I did a couple of lifetimes full in a very short period of time prior to this. But the more I think about it, I couldn't continue to do what I did, continue the work that I wanted to do and had the grace to be able to do it, the grace in my life. To be able to do movies about domestic violence, about child abuse, about revisionist history, about women transcending their circumstances, about do shows within the Bionic Woman that I had to kind of finagle and push to get these particular episodes made. One being biofeedback. I don't remember how many of you remember that. We showed something that was very true and very real, and today, I mean, I had to bargain. I had to say, okay, I'll do Fembots in Las Vegas and Bigfoot. If you will do one episode about mind over matter. That was, what is that, 5 to 1? That's how much resistance in our culture there was. And today it's on the front page of Time magazine. Looking at how amazing we are. And it was, to me, whether or not our mental conditioning allows us to agree with something, I think when our body feels it, when our deeper self or our soul feels it, it recognizes it and responds on some level, even if our mind's going, yeah, well, that's a crock or whatever, or that's voodoo, or that's blah, blah, blah. And I feel that that's what happened with my career. That I had the amazing opportunity to meet some incredible teachers when I was very young. And I was able to take some of that, which they had taught me, and I found that truth for myself, and infuse it into stories, even in Bionic Woman. And that had you not recognized that in yourself, I wouldn't have meant anything. So I wouldn't have meant anything without you. I was just then an actress who was maybe successful, but I became huge and iconic because you saw that heart. It awakened in you and went, yeah. And so I have to thank you for this star, and gosh, thank you all, because you made it happen, first of all, on a literal level. And and because you really made my career. So I honor who you are. Maybe that's a little narcissistic, because if you saw in me and liked it, then that means that I'm appreciating that in you because it was in me. So, however, that's my truth, and I always advocate telling the truth. And I'm incredibly proud of you and you trust me. My sister, I have to tell you, for those of you who don't know the story, it's all her fault I did the Bionic Woman.
Yes!
So without her having loved that show, and the start date of the first Bionic Woman thing, because when I first got it, I was going to go make important movies about important things, and you know, and then they sent me this science fiction thing where people were jumping off of buildings and doing all these strange things, and I went, yep. And I thought, well, I'm not really a science fiction person, and this is cute, but, and then my girlfriend said, my best friend, then who's no longer with us, but some of you may remember her from the show. She just had long black hair, her name was Lindsay Wagner, and she said to me, Lindsay, don't you understand that this venue, this science fiction, and she's a human being, she's a person from, you know, from planet Earth who has to go through this amazing transformation. If you can have some kind of creative control, you can do some stories that make it important. Just put that in your contract. How old was I? 25? Sure, I'll put up my contract. But I did, and it worked. I mean, with the help of my agent at the time, and so I started learning at that point how, and then I had a propensity, which I'm very grateful for, to be able to see how to take a story that's kind of a typical story, whether it's good or not, but kind of a typical arc, and take that and make something more out of it. Find a deeper human issue or something that we can talk about in this and make it, add another layer to it. And it worked. And then I moved forward after the series because of the magnitude of that, and did the television movies in a much more overt way. And that worked too, where they didn't, you know, they were scared to do them, but because I had such a cue, they were willing. And they wanted to see if the public really was interested in all this human issue stuff. And in fact, because they didn't think that you were. And you proved them wrong. And responded once again. And so they did another and another, and pretty soon it's like a no big deal. They got issues on TV all the time. Some I think they should take off. However, that was kind of the evolution. So I consider this star to be our star. It's got my name on it, but do know that that's how I feel about it. And I want to thank I want to thank my mother for all this happening. She's hiding in the back. She doesn't want to. And when I won the Emmy for the Bionic Woman, I was so and people say, oh, I didn't think this was going to happen, but I just happened to have my speech in my pocket. Right? You know how that happens? I didn't have a speech in my pocket. There was no way in my mind that they were going to elect, you know, they were going to choose me over, what was that one? House? Home? Anyway, this wonderful dramatic series that I was up against. Family. And I was just so thankful to be nominated with that. Not because I didn't think my work was worth it, but because I didn't have any sense that I would win over a real serious, heavy dramatic show in the area of dramatic series. And I truly did not. So I was just sitting there, and they called my name, and I about needed to call for wardrobe. And then I started to panic because I couldn't think of, oh my God, what am I going to say? Who am I going to, blah, blah, blah. And I could hardly remember my own name, so I'm trying to remember people that I should thank, and people were helpful in my career. Oh man, and I forgot to thank my mother, like a lot of people do, and I've never heard the end of it. So I really want to thank